Krishna. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Canto 3, Chapter 25, text number 17. Tada Purushaha Atmanam Kevalam Prakritih Param Nirantaram Swayam Jyotihi Animanam Akhanditam Tada Purusha Atmanam Kevalam Prakritih Param Nirantaram Swayam Jyotir Animanam Akhanditam Tada Purushatmanam Kevalam Prakritih Param Nirantaram Swayam Jyotir Animanam Akhanditam Tada Purushatmanam Kevalam Prakritih Param Nirantaram Swayam Jyotir Animanam Akhanditam
Tada Purusha Atmanam Kevalam Prakrite Param Nirantaram Swayam Jyoti Animanam Akhanditam
Tada Purusha Atmanam Kevalam Prakrite Param Nirantaram Swayam Jyoti Animanam Akhanditam
Tada Purusha Atmanam
Kevalam Prakrite Param
Nirantaram Swayam Jyoti Animanam Akhanditam
Tada then Purushaha the individual soul Atmanam himself Kevalam pure Prakritih Param transcendental to material existence Nirantaram non-different Swayam Jyotihi self-effulgent Animanam infinitesimal Akhanditam not fragmented. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. At that time, the soul can see himself to be transcendental to material existence and always self-effulgent, never fragmented, although very minute in size. Purport: in the state of pure consciousness or Krishna consciousness, one can see himself as a minute particle, non different from the Supreme Lord. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Jiva or the individual soul is eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Just as the sun's rays are minute particles of the brilliant constitution of the sun, so a living entity is a minute particle of the Supreme Spirit. The individual soul and the Supreme Lord are not separated as in material differentiation. The individual soul is a particle from the very beginning. One should not think that because the individual soul is a particle, it is fragmented from the whole spirit. Mayavad philosophy enunciates that the whole spirit exists, but a part of it, which is called jiva, is entrapped by illusion. This philosophy, however, is unacceptable because spirit cannot be divided like a fragment of matter. That part, the jiva, is eternally apart. As long as the Supreme Spirit exists, his part and parcel also exists. As long as the sun exists, the molecules of the sun's rays also exist. The jiva particle is estimated in the Vedic literature to be 1/10,000th the size of the upper portion of a hair. It is therefore infinitesimal. The Supreme Spirit is infinite, but the living entity or the individual soul is infinitesimal, although it is not different in quality from the Supreme Spirit. Two words in this verse are to be particularly noted. One is nirantaram, which means non-different or of the same quality. The individual soul is also expressed here as animanam. Animanam means infinitesimal. The Supreme Spirit is all-pervading, but the very small spirit is the individual soul. Akhanditam means not exactly fragmented, but constitutionally always infinitesimal. No one can separate the molecular parts of the sunshine from the sun, but at the same time, the molecular part of the sunshine is not as expansive as the sun itself. Similarly, the living entity, by his constitutional position, is qualitatively the same as the Supreme Spirit, but he is infinitesimal. Om Jnana-Mirandasya Jnanam-Jnana-Shalakam Chakshur-Vedanaya Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namaha. Om Vishnu-Padaya Krishna Krishna Om Vishnu-Padaya Krishna 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 Bhakti-Vedanta Tathadakam Shri-Guru Vaishnava Shri-Guru Sarva-Loganathan Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jagadamadhiraye nashtakayashu bhatreshu nityam bhagavat sevara bhagavatyuttam shloke bhakti bhavati nashtuti krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nandagopa kumaraya govindaya namo namaha. Tada Purushatmanam Kevalam Prakritah Param Nirantaram Swayam Jyotir Animanam Akhanditam. So, this chapter is titled The Glories of Devotional Service. In the previous chapter, we just finished understanding the renunciation of Kardama Muni. He was very blessed. Of course, he was a great devotee. And at the same time, he had the special mercy of receiving the Lord as his son. And even though he received the Lord as his son, he did not stay at his home. He left for self-realization. it is said in the Vedic literature, as soon as you are 50, Panchashodasham Vanam Vrajit. So, even though he received Lord as the son, still he left. So, what to speak of individual, ordinary devotees, grihasthas. Also, in this chapter, Kapila Dev has been explaining to his mother. It started with the inquiries of his mother, Devahuti. She was very concerned. She has so many material desires, and there is a constant influx of desires, and she wants to give up all of that, get situated in devotional service. So Kapila Dev has been instructing, and the translation here starts with, at that time the soul can see himself. So this whole thing, at that time, I'll come back to that later. But before that, just something very important which is mentioned in this verse about Mayavad. And of course, we all hear about it, and Prabhupada is stressing that in Bhaktivedanta purports, throughout his purports, he is stressing the problems with Mayavad philosophy and how we have tendency also, because Mayavad is the last snare of Maya. So we'll go through this, and then I'll come back to at that time portion of the translation. In the state of pure consciousness or Krishna consciousness, one can see himself non-different from the Supreme Lord. And it is stated that the individual soul and Supreme Soul are not separated as in material differentiation. So, if we talk to Mayavadi philosophers, they have a strict in Mayavad, there are different vadas also. There is Aparichinnavad, there is Pratibimbavad, there is Abhasavad. So, what is mentioned here, what Prabhupada is explaining, is technically referred to as Aparichinnavad. So, Mayavadi philosophers, they have firm faith, Aparichinna. That is that the fragmented soul, which we call fragmented, they never refer to it as fragmented, it's just illusion. So they say that it's Aparichinna, it's always Brahman, and it is eternally Brahman, it's Aparichinna. So, but we learn here from this that there is a material, that there is a differentiation, Mame Vangsho, Jiva Loke. And one should not think, Prabhupada is stating here, one should not think that because the individual soul is a particle, it is fragmented from the whole spirit. Mayavadi philosophy enunciates that the whole spirit exists, but part of which is called the jiva, is entrapped by illusion. So this is what they refer to as abhasavad. There's illusion. The living entity is currently in a state of illusion, and that's why it is understanding itself to be separate or appearing as separate from Brahman, but it is actually Brahman himself. It's always like that. But that is not true. So this philosophy is, however, unacceptable, because spirit cannot be divided. We have the famous shloka from Bhagavad Gita, Nenam Chindanti Shastrani, cannot be cut with any weapons. So another theory that's not directly referred to here, but it is also part of this thing, which Mayavadi philosophers often say, is theory of reflection, which Prabhupada explained in Bhagavad Gita or Pratibimbavad. Famous example is there that if the sun or the moon, I guess moon is a better example. So the reflection of moon can be seen in a pot of water, and as the water is perturbed in that particular pot, the reflection can get distorted, but it is that is the position of jiva, but the moon itself remains the same. But that is completely also removed here. Now, Prabhupada is saying that all of this understanding about the soul being eternally existent and the Lord being eternally existent is understood after, if we see from the previous translation, after the false identification with the body and the false identification with the concept of I and mine has been totally vanquished. Then we can understand all of this. So the roundabout way of saying this, or another explanation of this purport here, is that Mayavadi philosophers, they are not free of the conception of I and mine. They are completely contaminated. And that is also confirmed, by Srila Prabhupada. He says that it's the last snare of Maya. It's a desire to be. The very reason why we come to material world is because we want to be the Purusha or the enjoyer, and now again we are trying to be Purusha or to merge into Purusha. So this is the Mayavadi sannyasis, as of many of you must be already aware, that in their principles of brahmacharya, in their principles of austerity, they're much further advanced than us. For example, one example is there in brahmacharya book. Guru Maharaj writes that you have tamarind here. You use sometimes tamarind for making different things. Sometimes. So usually in the Mayavadi ashrams, they age it for at least 4 years before using it, because it has a tendency to agitate the senses. So it's a brahmacharya principle to be not, eating too sour, too sweet. So it's tried for 4 years, and then slowly after that it loses its potency to agitate the senses. So that's one example of things that do. Then there are some vegetables, of course, that they avoid. One of them is drumsticks. It agitates the senses. It's very nutritious also, that's one thing, but still it's not so good. Eggplants and all that. But anyway, there is another, I think it's called Sagara Lambana. They don't cross the sea. That's another one of the principles of Mayavadi. So a lot of us they walk and whatnot. Even the Mayavadi in itself, the whole philosophy of neti, not this, not that, it in itself is so taxing for the brain. So all of that they do, but still they are not free of this consciousness of I and mine and karma, which is mentioned in the previous verse. So we can understand, and there's this famous example that there's a soul, there's a super soul. We have this shloka from Upanishads. It's Samana vrikshe purushe nimagno nishya shuchati moyamana jushtam yada pashyadanya visham asya mahimanam iti vita shoga. So basically we know that there are two birds sitting on a branch, and then one of them is eating the fruits from that tree and the other one is carefully observing it. And unless and until this bird who is enjoying the fruits, he opens his eyes, Jushtam yada pashyat, as soon as it sees that this is the super soul, understands the glories of the super soul, iti vita shoka, sometimes it will be happy, sometimes it will be distressed because of the fruits that it is enjoying from the tree. So Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, everything is very clear, but this whole distorted understanding of Mayavad is a big problem in the society also. Sometimes we think that Prabhupada is overstressing it. Every purport, he's talking about Mayavad. The name of the chapter is the glories of devotional service, and this whole purport is dealing with Mayavad practically. But it is important because I was once distributing books and I came across one person, very favorable, Hindu, and he said, "Oh, you are distributing these books." I started explaining the philosophy. He said, no, it's okay. You are promoting Sanatana Dharma, so I'll take the book. I'll contribute. So it was Science of Self-Realization. He took the book, wanted to contribute. And then I started just to explain a little bit that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. We're supposed to surrender He immediately got very angry and said, "Don't say that. I am Krishna. I can show you I have some marks on my body and Krishna also has them." So I will be very angry. And then it is from such incidents that we can understand how the Mayavad is so deep rooted that sometimes it's all pervading, but we just ignore it. It's very difficult to identify it, and that's the reason why Prabhupada in his Bhaktivedanta purpose, as soon as there is an opportunity, Prabhupada is explaining and debunking the whole thing about it. And it's written, right understanding is Mame Vamsha Jiva Loke. It's simple, it's simple, yeah, we are Mame Vamsha, we are Amsha. Mame Vamsha Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Manasastani, Indriyani, Prakrististani, Karshati. It's simple to understand. There are 5 senses, 6, the senses, Manasastani, Indriyani, 6 senses beginning with the mind, and then Prakrististani, Karshati. We are in this material world, we can see we are Karshati, we are always in a state of struggle with this material nature. But if we understand this, then our miseries can be removed. Prakriti is Mame Vamsha Jiva Loke. But it's at the same time very difficult to understand also, as it is explained in this purport. And next it is explained that Jiva particle is estimated in Vedic literature, we all know, Keshagrashata Bhagasya. It's 1/10,000 of the part of the hair follicle. As a student, when I was in college, I was beginning to associate with devotees. I was interested in trying to calculate the size of hair. It's about 70 microns. It's about 71 micron is 10 raised to the power minus 6 of a meter. If it's micron means 1 by 100,000th of a meter. So anyway, it's 70 microns, and if you divide it by 1/10,000, so it would be 70,000 microns, which is 7 nanometers basically. So size of the soul is about 7 nanometers. And Prabhupada says that it cannot be seen with material means. We know that, and Prabhupada also mentions you cannot see it with a microscope. It's too small to be seen. So I just thought I'll say a little bit about it because it's mentioned here. And we are often, many of you here are also preaching to the young men in colleges. So now there are, our eyes, they can see 100 microns. That's the smallest thing they can see. Hair follicle is even smaller, 70 microns. And the soul is even smaller, which is 70,000 microns. The bigger, the smaller, basically. So it's 7 nanometers, you can say. So what happens here is that when you take a normal microscope can see like 200 nanometers, small thing. Soul is 7 nanometers. Normal light microscope. So we actually cannot see with a microscope. It has lenses, and the lenses are arranged in a certain way to magnify, and the maximum it can magnify is 200 nanometers, but the soul is 7. Now, there are more advanced types of microscopes. Scientists may argue that, we have electron microscopes, which does not actually use lenses and glass to magnify something. It works on a different principle. There are different types of electron microscopes. So there's this scanning and transmission type of electron microscopes. With that, they can even resolve, or they can even see something which is as small as 0.01 nanometers. So soul is 7 nanometers, and they can even see something with 0.0. So they may say that, we have microscope, but soul is not visible. But the problem is that these microscopes, they work on a material principle. What kind of material principle? They have electrons, they fire electrons at the specimen which is being magnified. So basically what happens is that they have to color the specimen with a certain color, or they have to cover it with gold, or they have to cut it in a specific way, or they have to put some adhesives on that specimen which they have to observe, which is not possible for a soul. We have this shloka, right? Nayanam chindanti srastani, nayanam dahati pava, na shoshati maruta. You can't dry it, you can't cut it, you can't, for example, color it, or you can't make it in a specific shape. But you have to do, if you want to use this electron microscope which can magnify things, you have to follow all these material processes, because the whole scientific process, whatever scientific paradigm is, it's based on material, pratyaksha praman. It's basically based on matter. You use matter to measure or study matter, and that is the whole reason why Prabhupada says that it's not observable by microscope. It wasn't then. It's not now, even though the microscopic community might disagree with us, but the valid reason here that it is something transcendental. They also have materials like antimatter, which do not behave exactly like matter. Even if you go in the quantum realm, there's an uncertainty principle. It's by one German scientist, Heisenberg, and the particle can be at two. It basically means that it's difficult to measure the position and velocity of a particular particle in time and space. So they themselves have these kind of problems. So we can explain, if someone asks us, that normal microscope, we just cannot see it, it's not powerful. Electron microscopes or whatever types of microscopes you may have, they're all based on material principles, and they don't apply in the spiritual realm or to the spirit soul. So I just thought I'll mention something about that. And actually, if the soul can be seen, it's in second chapter it's written, Ashcharyavat pashyati kasyadenam, Ashcharyavat vadati tatheva chanya, Ashcharyavat chanam annashnoti shudvapayana vedana chava pasyati. So Ashcharyavat pashyati, those who see it with amazement, they are surprised, amazed. So it can be seen actually. So it's a bit contrary. It cannot be seen, but it can be seen. Ashcharyavat vadati, they hear about it in amazement. Ashcharyavat chanam annashnoti, they hear from others about it with a lot of amazement. And some people, Prabhupada says in that purport that people with poor fund of knowledge, even after hearing about it, they go ahead and invent these electron microscopes and other things, and they won't understand it. So it's inconceivable. It's such a small thing, 7 nanometers. It's really, really small, and it is inconceivable. Prabhupada says for anyone to understand that it is such a small thing present in big banyan tree and also in a microbe, which is you can fit so many microbes in an inch of length. So inconceivable things. It's difficult for people who rely on pratyaksha praman like scientists, and therefore they are considered people with poor fund of knowledge. They can, for all their sophistication, for all their advancement, for all their knowledge, actually it's very difficult to become a qualified theoretical physicist, nuclear scientist. All the amount of study that they have to go through, they spend more than half of their life just studying, and later also they are just researching. But for all that, they are men with poor fund of knowledge. Shutva penam vedana chavakasya. They hear, but they cannot hear, they cannot see. So then it's mentioned, the Supreme is infinite, but the living entity of the individual soul is infinitesimal. And the two words here is nirantaram, non-different, of the same quality. Individual soul is expressed here as infinitesimal. So here we know all this. It's nityam nityanam chetanas chetananam. We have that verse. We understand from that. Lord is, and we also have in Bhagavad Gita Natevam Jatu Nasham. So never was there a time when Krishna didn't exist. Krishna is saying, I didn't exist, you didn't exist. We are all eternally existing. Simple to understand, difficult for Mayavadis. So all this Prabhupada is explaining here about Mayavad and how all of this is a problem, and now we understand that although it's difficult to see soul, but we can see it, and what is the process, and the process is described just in this chapter, Glories of Devotional Service. If we simply surrender on to Krishna, then it becomes easy to see something that cannot be seen even by sophisticated microscopes. And now I would like to come to the beginning of this translation, where it is said, at that time. So, at that time is referred to the situation which is described in the previous translation, when one is completely cleansed of the impurities of lust and greed produced from false identification of the body as I and bodily possessions as mine. One's mind becomes purified, and in that pure stage he transcends the state of so-called material happiness and distress. Brahmabhuta prasannatma naishotiti na kankshati. So at that time, so this at that time means this stage of Brahmabhuta, which is being referred to in the previous previous purport. So we all know it's the karma. The spirit soul has love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but as soon as the spirit soul comes in contact with this material nature, that whole love for the Lord transforms into lust, and then lust, when it doesn't get satisfied, it turns into kama and krodha and lobha. Actually, the kama turns into krodha and lobha, and that's the trividam narkasyadam dwaram nashanam atmana kama krodha tatha lobha. So kama, krodha and lobha, there are three gates to hell, and that's how the conditional life begins. Prabhupada states that over there that if it is not controlled, if these three gates of hell, if we don't work on it, if we do not work on this removing, coming, trividam narkasyadam tasmadidam prayam tajet, if we don't work on giving these up, then it's actually impossible to come out of it. We are then fallen into a well that's an abyss that's unlimitedly deep, and it's very difficult to come out of it. So yeah, this is what is mentioned in the previous purport, that this happens, but then it is explained. Lord Kapil is explaining that we can come out of it. In the purport, he explains that we can come out of it by this simple process of yoga, which is explained in the 7th chapter. That it is very difficult. Kama Krodha is there. It is constantly accompanying us. It's that shloka is there in 2nd chapter. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam. So just like the rivers are flowing into an ocean constantly, but the ocean is achala pratishtam. It's remaining calm, and it's not really calm, but still it's an analogy. We don't take it literally. So it's there, it's stable, and although continuously it's flowing, but it's in a stable state of mind. Yatha dipo nivatasto, just like even in the wind, the lamp, it's constantly. It's straight. It's not moving. The flame of the lamp is not moving. So that position can be attained by. It is explained in 7th chapter. Maya Sakta Mana Partha. So if we perform that yoga, Krishna is explaining Maya Sakta Mana Partha. Yoga Yunjan Madashraya Samshayam Samagram Mam. You can understand everything in full. You can understand all of this that Mayavadis fail to understand, and all these difficult concepts, just by making Maya Sakta, by making your mind attached to me. And that's further elaborately explained in Bhagavatam. Savai Vana Krishna Padaravindu. Ambarish Maharaj's prayers are there. It is explained in Bhagavad Gita in brief, Maya Sakta Mana Partha, Yoga means that yoga which you perform, Arjuna, taking Madashraya, with my Ashraya, that can explain everything in full, and that is the yoga process, and then it is explained in detail. So Lord Ambarish Maharaj's prayers are there. it gives in detail what we should be doing. Savai Mana Krishna Padaravinda Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanuvarnane Karo Harer Mandire Marjanadeshu Shutim Chakares Chuta Satkathoda. So he's explaining how he engaged his mind in thinking about the Savai Mana Krishna Padaravinda. At the lotus feet, he engages his mind in serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanuvarnane, he used his Kantha in glorifying Vaikuntha, the abode of the Lord. Shrutim Chakare Sutta Satkatha, hearing the Satkatha means the pastimes of the Lord, Sat, and also the devotees of the Lord. One word for devotees is Sat, so Satkathodaya, and that's Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanu Varnane, Karo Harer Mandira Marjanadeshu. Yeah, so he engaged his hands in cleaning the temple of the Lord. And we see recently there was this Gundicha Marjana. So it's Lord himself, he was cleaning the temple. It's a very nice service. He's teaching us how we can cleanse our heart. Then he goes on, Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane Disho. He used his eyes in seeing the linga of the Lord, deities of the Lord. Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane. Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane Disho. And then he was seeing Srimad Tulasya Grahanam Chatat Pada Saroja Saroja. He used his nose in smelling the flowers offered and tasting the tulasi leaf offered to the Lord. Tat Bhaitya Gatra Spashenga Sangha. He used his skin to touch the skin of the devotees. I mean, not that we go and rub the skin against you, but we hug them, we take prasadam. It is explained by acharyas that we take prasadam with devotees, then it happens that we touch with our skin, with their skin. And it is important. Even Guru Maharaj writes in Brahmacharya book that he's in dealings with women, he's explaining that even though our body is covered with cloth, and that covered cloth shouldn't even rub against the cloth of a woman. So it goes that far beyond. So what to speak of being in contact with the skin. So he's saying that I use my skin in touching the Tad Bhaitya Gatra Spashenga Sangha, in touching the skin of the devotees, hugging them and serving them. Sometimes we get opportunity to massage senior devotees and take prasadam with devotees. That's important, taking prasadam with devotees. Then he says, Padav Harishetra Padanusarpane, he used his legs to walk. I remember one time, do you know there was a helicopter service started to Mayapur? You could go to Mayapur in helicopter. So one time there was a service that was started. I think it was started primarily for Jayapataka Maharaj, because he's in poor health. So then other devotees also started availing of that. You can take a helicopter from Kolkata to Mayapur, and then you can just skip all the traffic and you can just arrive in 30 minutes or 20 minutes, something like that. So I told Guru Maharaj he was going to visit, and I said, Guru Maharaj, there is this service, would you like to go? He said, no, that's not the proper way of entering a dham, through a helicopter. So, and that is confirmed here. Amrish Maharaj says, Padav Harishetra Padanusarpane. I use my legs in walking to the Harishetra, to the different abodes of the Lord. We see in South India there are these Nrsimha temples, they are all on hills, so you have to walk a lot, a lot of stairs. So that helps in Padu Harishetra, purifying our senses. So, Padu Harishetra Padanusarpane. Shiro Hrsikesa Padavibandhane. So we are supposed to walk to the Harishetras, or the places of pilgrimage, and Shiro Hrsikesa. And I use my head in bowing down in front of the deities of the Lord. So that's the attitude of entering Dham and using our senses. And then he goes on to say, Amrimat, Kamam Chadasyana tu Kama Kamaya Yathotma Shloka Janashrivati. So I made the desires of the Lord as my desires. And it is also, Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, Nachatasman Manusresu. So no one is more dear to me than one who is preaching the message. And of this Bhagavad Gita, and the same thing is confirmed by Amrish Maharaj, Kamam Chada Senatu, Kama Kamya, I make desires of the Lord as my desires. And like this I worship Uttama Shloka, which is Lord Himself. So, super excellence of devotional service is actually the real purport of this entire chapter, not just of this purport or the previous purport, which Lord Himself is explaining here. And we know Brahma went 3 times through Vedic literature. It's practically impossible for us to, we struggled to finish Bhagavatam 3 times, but Brahma went through, he has that level of intellect, as we all know. He went through the entire Vedas 3 times, and he confirmed that Bhakti Yoga is the supermost or the topmost yoga practice that is required. And there is no doubt about that. Krishna Himself says there are different types of yogis we can see. I don't know if you ever had a chance to be in Kumbh Mela, anyone? No. You had a chance, so you may have seen Prabhu in Kumbh Mela. I remember also, so you see all sorts of different sadhus and babajis and ascetics and people who are performing austerities. I saw it was in the month of, what was the month? I think it was May or June month, very hot month. Temperatures are like 45 degrees Celsius. So there are yogis, they sit and they light fire all around them, and they are sitting in between. It's very difficult to do that. And they don't even cover them with cloth. They just have some coping and they live like that. And we can see there are yogis with, their matted hair up to the ground, and they're walking and their shikha is dragging behind them on the floor. And many of them, they live in groups without much clothing. They just lie in cloth, coping, just living in coping in just a small, they put a tent and then they just be in that tent. And maybe in summer months it's fine, but in winters it's very difficult. And they live in Kailash and upper regions of Himalaya. It's very cold there. Even there are regions there which in summer the temperatures are minus 40. That's summer. Minus 40 is the summer there, and they live there without anything. So that happens. And but I was hearing one lecture from Maharaj, and he was saying that what do they do with their long shikha or their long beard when they die? They take them with it, but it's often a matter of pride for them. It doesn't help them in any way. When they die, their long shikhas or their matted hair or their long beards. To have such a long beard, you have to be alive for 200, 300, 400 years. So they grow all that, they take up the austerity, but they have not developed attachment for Krishna. And so when they die, it's of no use, such austerity, such trouble that they take. We have that shloka, Panthastu Koti Shatavatsara Sampragambam. So it is explained over there that yogis, if they were to, yogis and who perform austerities, and even the jnanis, if they were to speculate with the speed of mind and the term used there is thousands of millions of years, but still they cannot approach the outer periphery of the tip of the toe of the Lord. And here Amrish Maharaj is talking about Savamaya Krishna Pada, how I engage my mind at the lotus feet of the Lord. So we can practically see that how this Bhakti Yoga, it's the culmination of all processes of yoga system, and how it is the supermost yoga system which allows us to, and it's Sukham Tartumabhyam, it's enjoyable. We associate with devotees, we serve, we do Harinam, we go out and book distribution. It's not an ordinary activity. I heard in one lecture, Guru Maharaj was saying that Prabhupada said that just one day of Sankirtan, it's better than millions of years of yoga practice. So even though the neophyte devotee, I'm neophyte, we may not know much, but just Maharaj was saying that a neophyte devotee, he goes out, he gives a book about Krishna, tells people about Krishna. That in itself is much higher than all these so-called yogis out there. Because one big disadvantage of practicing yoga is that we can become proud. As we get siddhis, or as we get a long shikha, or as we become stronger than other, other yogis in our different feats that we can do. There's a tendency to become proud. And Maharaj, and we know from Shastra, pride comes before fall down. So there's always a tendency to fall down for yogis who are trying to practice all these other types of yogas. And we often see in India there was one Baba. He was a Stang yogi. He was a follower of the Stang yoga of I'm forgetting.
Patanjali.
Yeah, right. Ashtanga Yoga of the sage Patanjali. That's the name of the brand that he opened now. It's called Patanjali. So he started. He was expert in yoga postures, and he started giving lectures. I remember I was a kid when he started giving lectures to people about how they can use different postures to heal, and it works. You can make the body fit and misuse the Ashtanga Yoga system. And he became an instant sensation on the TV. People started following him. He became a household name. He could cure people, and people were following his yoga postures and getting cured of diabetes. They were getting cured of problems with low hemoglobin and all sorts of things and related to fitness. And then he turned all that into a brand, and they started making fast-moving consumer goods like toothpaste and everything. And it's all turned into a business now, and I mean, one can say, oh, he did so much welfare work, and it's all useless. It's a waste. So basically, he got. Prabhupada says that they can get distracted. So there's a standard example. He's a yogi. He's advanced. You look at him. He looks very young. He's 70 years old. Looks very young. Has nice, not a no gray hair and everything. Looks young, very fit, very thin, very powerful, helping millions of people, no use. And at the same time, there is this danger of falling at any time, practically. There have been other people also. They may not look like yogis. There was one famous person was Schindler, Oscar Schindler. Anyone know about him? He was. There was this Holocaust of Jews in the, I guess, yeah. So he selflessly, he was not a good businessman. Suddenly during wartime, he became a good businessman. He could get a lot of. He was making enamelware and pots and vessels for the military, and then he became rich. And he used all that money to save the 1,200 Jews from getting killed, and then they worship him up until now. He used what he did was that when finally he had a factory where he had Jews who were employed. He would secretly call them. He would bribe the German officials and try to smuggle these Jews into his factory, and on the pretext of making different articles for supporting the war, he would employ the Jews and hence save them from being killed. And finally, he paid money to the German officials to buy all of them and keep them with him when it was announced that all the Jews would be killed. So so he's whatever money he had, he just paid to the government, and in exchange he could buy a Jew which he could set free. Sometimes people do that also. They buy these bird cages and set people free, and they think that they'll help them. It can Janmashvarya Shutashri. These are 4 things that you can get if you do some pious activity. You can be beautiful. You can be learned. Janma. You can get birth in a high family of Brahmanas. Janmashvarya. You can be very intelligent and beautiful, but it cannot give you liberation. You cannot stop the birth and death. So yeah, all of this is useless. Maharaj was mentioning in the lecture about midday meal scheme recently. So that's also, ISKCON is unfortunately known for feeding the poor. It's a truth. In India, they are distributing, their temples have money and they are just distributing food to these kids who are studying nonsense in schools and who are going to, I don't know, do what in their life. Anyway, so all of this is useless, and Krishna says also, Yogi Namapi Sarvesham Madgatena Antaratana. So after explaining all the yoga processes, he says, Yogi Namapi Sarvesham Madgatena Antaratana. In my opinion, Yogi Namapi Sarvesham Madgatena Antaratana. Shraddha Pan Bhajate Omam Samayukta Tamo Mata. It's my opinion, Samayukta Tamo Mata. That among all the yogis, the best one, the topmost is one who Shraddhavan Bhajate, who serves me with devotion. Bhajate, Prabhupada explains that Bhaja cannot be used as worship. It's not worship, it has to be service. Bhaja means service. And then we see in Bhakti Yoga, in Bhagavatam, that how Bhakti Yoga is so powerful and so uplifting that it can practically, we have this verse, it can uplift anyone. It's Kirat Kirat Hunanva Pulinda Pulkashi Abhir Shumba Yavna Kasade Yene Chapapa Yadapashraya Shraya. What's the last name? Kirat Hunanda Pulinda Pulkasha Abhir Shumba Yavna Kasade Shuddhanti, Yene Chapapa Yadapashraya Shuddhanti Tasme Prabha Vishnave Namaha. So whether you are Kirat or these are lower, there is, of course, there is this social division. There is Brahmanas, Satya, Vaishya, then Shudra, then below them there is Yavana, Khasadaya, Avira, Shumba, abominable, dog eaters, But Shuddhanti Tasme Prabha Vishnave Namaha. But if they take shelter of Vishnu, they can become completely purified of everything. It's just by knowing. It is written in Bhagavad Gita in the I think it comes in the second chapter. It's a verse. It's not from Bhagavad Gita. It's a verse from, I think, Vishnu Puran. It says, Vishnu Stutrini Rupani Purushakhyana Choviduhu Ekam Tu Mahata Shrishta Dvitiyam Tanda Samsitam Tritiyam Sarva Bhutastam Tani Yatva Vimuchyate. Just by knowing the three Vishnus, you can be liberated. So, just by understanding the three Vishnus, it says. So that's the glory of devotion service and understanding Lord. The whole thing is about understanding, and understanding means we can't understand. Lord reveals Himself, and He reveals when we engage in Bhakti Yoga. So yeah, that's pretty much it. All of you, I guess, most of you here are distributing books, so you are higher than any yogis out there, and you are engaging in the highest activity for the welfare of the human being. It is there is this idea that one should serve with their energy, intelligence, and do something for the real benefit of mankind, and you are engaging in that. So I feel fortunate to be on the association of devotees like yourself. Thank you. Hare Krishna. If there are any corrections, suggestions, questions, we can take them now. Yes.
One technical thing. What does apratitchina mean? It means not cut or something?
Aparichinna.
Aparichinna.
So aparichinna means that it is whole. We are not separated parts and parcels. So Mayavadi philosophy is aparichinnavad, which means Supreme Brahman is one and whole, and we are also Brahman. It's just because of abhasavad, or it's just because of illusion, we think that we are separate from that Brahman. We also accept that it is because of body is temporary. It's not illusion, body is temporary, but we firmly maintain that we are fragmented parts and parcels, but they don't accept fragmentation. But that is explained, all of that is explained, Krishna says we were fragmented. I was there previously and I'm there now, and you were there previously. So if he and us were there previously, and he is always in his purified state, which is, his transcendental state, so we also have to be qualitatively in the same position as Krishna, and we will be in the same position in the future also. So they say, but their philosophy is Aparichinavad, and that Aparichinavad is refuted here by Srila Prabhupada in his purport, and of course, by Lord Kapila himself. He is explaining, which is being further elaborated by Srila Prabhupada.
About these Mayavadis, you are mentioning those who are really austere, and they like this philosophy that it's all one and the same. How much are they present today in the world? It seems that most of them, at least here in the West, they like this, we are all one part, but there's not so much austerity. It's actually quite sensual. How much are the real ones present today?
Real ones, yeah, that is also a thing that, even Mayavad philosophy in itself, those who are really following it, they are, how many are there, and those who are there, are they exactly following it properly as per how it should be followed and all that? It's very less, but in India it is still there. There is Shankaracharya, there is Shankaracharya in Jagannatha Puri. There is Shankaracharya, he's quite active. He's often making videos, and there is another Shankaracharya who is quite popular. They have Gurukuls, and he has a very long name, but he's quite popular. So he is, in one sense, he made some heavy statements on television. He about which even we don't make in the ISKCON world. He was heavily against Muslims. He said in India that his name is Avi Mukteshwarananda. Yeah, that's his name. So he's quite popular. So he said all the Muslims should go away from India. They shouldn't live here. And then there was a question. So why they should? He said, why should they live? Quran says that Muslims should live in a place where there is abundance of Muslims. So they should go to other countries. They should follow Quran. He speaks very fearlessly. Actually, we cannot imagine the way he's speaking about Hindutva and about even Vedic culture. Killing of cows. He said you cannot kill a cow in India. As long as even we are seeing in India that ISKCON devotees, they are just mingling so much with the political parties. Right? We see that everywhere. And Prabhupada strictly was, at least we hear from Guru Maharaj, that we should never really side with any political party. And in India, devotees are doing that. I guess, I don't know what other countries maybe they are doing. But he is the one who openly criticizes the government, never takes any side. He was invited for the inauguration of the Ayodhya temple. There was a temple recently, Ram Mandir was opened in Ayodhya.
Yeah.
Inauguration was there, he didn't go. He said it's not happening according to the Vedic culture and according to the proper Vidhi. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to be a part of ceremony. You have Modi, who is the Prime Minister. He's inaugurating, and it's not as per the Vedic culture. Government is not supporting. There are cows being killed, and government is not able to stop that. Useless government. He openly says that. He has a lot of followers. He has, I said, Gurukuls. I told you he has good following. Very powerful in his speech. Very learned. They know Shastra also. They know Sanskrit in and out. And it's difficult to even stand in front of them and argue in one sense. So they are active. It's not that they are not. And the Shankaracharyas are active in India. And outside, I don't think they are so active, maybe somewhat. But yes, this philosophy, one time I think there was this, someone asked Prabhupada that in your pranama mantra it is said, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Tarine, and he said, who are these? And Prabhupada said, you all are these, you are in the Western countries are full of voidism and all these ideas of Mayavad and this idea of, even this very basic idea of enjoying, becoming the Purusha, it's similar to Mayavad. Prabhupada is saying is the last snare of mind. Everyone has that in one sense. So regarding the question how much they are in India, yes, they are active. And we have to preach Krishna consciousness and we have to establish our Siddhanta of our Parampara, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. It's needed. Otherwise they are going to become very prominent and they can take over. They are making big influence with their preaching and they are making big influence with their speeches and with their power, and we should also go out like Madhvacharya was doing that. Right? He would have a whole team traveling with him. His idea was that you have to be strong also, apart from learned, so that if his disciples, they sometimes they will end up fighting also.
Establish
Establish the Siddhanta, yeah. So that is needed. He is actually our Sampradaya Acharya, one of our Sampradaya Acharyas, Madhvacharya. So that is needed to establish the Siddhanta. Yeah. It's there, it's active, it's not, don't think that it's not there, and it's really needed that otherwise, if they become, if people like Agar Mukteshwarananda, they become associated with the government and they become really big, then, people may not, they may just, neglect ISKCON. Because they don't like ISKCON so much. Because we have philosophical difference with them. So they will establish their Siddhanta as the central Siddhanta of India. There is one minister in India, is one of the states, Yogi Adityanath. So he wears saffron and he's a minister, he's the chief minister of the state. So yeah, it is active still. They are there, they have their ashrams and they are going on. And some of their disciples are also there on the YouTube. And they are becoming IITians, from a very prestigious college, and they are preaching and they are becoming famous. Anything else, please?
Okay, for one more question.
Sure is.
I didn't understand if you say something is 7 nanometers here, material world, we measure it with our material eyes. And what is the reference system of 7 nanometers of the soul? I mean, I get the implication that there's some relative system of the material and the soul which is not material.
The thing is that soul is achintya. First thing we have to understand is that it is beyond our material sense perception. But in the Upanishads, the shloka is mentioned. It says Keshagra Shata Bhagasya. It's there in Bhagavad Gita also. You can. I think exactly like this is not there, but it is mentioned that it is 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair follicle. So if you take your hair follicle, the tip of the hair, and if you divide it by 10,000, so that is the size. So, and you can find the size of hair follicle. It's about 70 microns or 70,000 nanometers. And if you divide that by 10,000, then that's 7 nanometers. So this is just to give us an idea how small it is. We don't. It's not that. It's just to explain the concept of achintya and how difficult it is, and therefore we should try to understand it through Shastra Chakshi, through the eye of Shastra, or through the eye of a realized person, self-realized soul, like a spiritual master. So the reference is this, Upanishadic reference, it is there. And if you want, we can give you that verse. It's there. And otherwise it is, let me just take it out. Oh, I think I don't have internet now. So anyway. So yeah, It's there in the Shastra. The size is mentioned. Is that clear, your question?
217. Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, 271. Can you read that shloka? What is that shloka?
The Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
Avinashi Tutar.
Yeah, in that it is mentioned. In the purport it's mentioned. It's from Upanishad, Keshagra Shatabhagasya. You can go in that, I think. So 217 you can read. Second chapter is actually, a lot of things here are from second chapter. If you see that, then all of these theory of Parichinnavad, Aparichinnavad, and Pratibimbavad, the theory of reflection, all this is explained, and size of the soul, and everything is all there in second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You can go through that. Anything else? Okay. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hrsikesa Prabhu ki
Jai.